no problem.
I say private institutions shouldn't be forced to. But what I do is different. You know, what we do, and I want to tell you. This is the third time. This is the third time we are speaking on. So let me tell you.
You must do it on your own.
So what is your...
So Arindam Chaudhary, what is your commitment to a democratic, egalitarian society?
Let me tell you what I am doing. So what we do is, we bring from Ramakrishna Mission schools and Al-Amin schools 100 of the poorest of poor kids, and not only...
Professor has a different question.
Now look, we pay taxes. What does the government do with the taxes that we pay? They give it houses to the president or something like that. They don't give it to the poor people.
That about. And I must tell this.
Let them charge more taxes, and that's a different issue.
But
they should pay. Government should pay for the education of every child.
Society we might be doing, but that doesn't mean that all private educational institutes will be doing and should be forced to do.
I'm sorry, but I don't mean to say this to provoke you or to provoke any of those who are against this bill, but I find...
I'm for this bill. And
it's all right to say I'm for this bill because it's not going to have an impact on you. Because it doesn't have an impact on your business. But
on the contrary, 10 years back in my book, The Great Indian Dream, I wrote that not only right to education should be there in schools, it should also be in colleges till PhD. Till PhD education, you must have free access to education.
No, it's like corporate social responsibility cannot just be a buzzword. It has to be an integral part of your business model.
Yes.
And as a part of an egalitarian democratic society in a developing country where they are bound, the chasms are bound to increase.
We do not have a democratic egalitarian society. The government has divided the country into so many parts. It is the government which is responsible for all the problems that we are having at the present time. If they run good schools, there will have been no problem. I studied in a corporation school.
Are you saying the government today is trying to cleanse its conscience and take away...
It has no conscience. I'm sorry, government has no conscience.
Are you saying the government is doing is pass the buck?
Of course.
In terms of school education.
Exactly what it is doing. It's not doing its job. If it had been doing its job...
Elections are around the corner. I mean, there's not so much time to go. All of these moves are meant to drum up a lot of support. At the end of the day, it's all hot air.
We have
why do you say it's hot air?
Look, because as Sir has said, you know, I mean, the number of people who are going to be affected by that, by this move are minuscule. The root causes that we need to address are not being addressed. Yes. Corporate social responsibility is an absolute given. It has to be implemented. I absolutely agree with you. I mean, I am myself right now setting up 7 colleges in 7 cities. 25% is being reserved for poor kids. And it is possible to do if you do the means testing thing that I've talked about on your show earlier on. You know, you charge high fees from people who are able to afford it. You take the profits and put a part of that profit into social responsibility. But this is... I
think, Mr. Chopra, there is a part of India that is worried about what is going to happen the day they open their institutions, the doors of their institutions, and stop treating them like an exclusive club for which the doors are closed, closed to the underprivileged. No, because tomorrow a child who comes from an underprivileged background can go and break all barriers.
Look, in South Africa there was apartheid, you broke it. What happened?
We need to end.
In America there was segregation, and that was broken. There was a lot of opposition. What happened?
Isn't the denial of good education in a country where government schools are in a pathetic state the greatest form of apartheid that you can have?
Would you like to do an audit? Would you like to do an audit of the amount of money that is allotted for government schools and how much is actually going down?
Okay, what's it? Madhu Prasad wanted to come in. Mohandas Pai raised his hand. Madhu Prasad first. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I'd like to talk on this whole issue of quality. It is not possible. Like, you know, we are talking as though government schools are bad and private schools are good. But this, from an educationist point of view, is in fact not a sustainable proposition at all. What is happening in the private schools, I agree the government schools require reform, they're in a terrible state, and I don't think this act is going to bring in many differences on that issue. But I do think that we should not put up for ourselves the private school as the model of quality education. Because what the private schools are doing is, they are homogenizing intake, they are homogenizing social background, they are in fact replacing privilege for merit. And we are beginning to accept this. I don't see any reason why somebody who can afford to take coaching classes, somebody who has a room to himself or herself in his own house, they should be and who can have computers and who can holiday in foreign countries, or whose parents can pay some enormous sum to go to school. How do these kids become quality education? They are in fact
Professor Indiration feels, Dr. Madhu Prasad, that you are diverting, you're taking the argument away from what it should be meant to be, but I will not get into that. I will ask Professor Indiration why you think she's diverting the argument with what she's making. Professor Indiration, to you, sir.
No,
go ahead.
We cannot have only one image of quality.
Central schools as a privilege for the employees of the central government. Why don't they run it for everybody?
So why can't every school run for everybody?
The question is, we are not asked this fundamental question: what is the responsibility of the state? Is it not to provide good education for everybody? If they are providing it, there will be no private school.
Let Minister Kapil Sibal first ensure that every bit of rupee, every budget that is passed is spent in actual fact where it's meant to be spent. Let him prove that is happening. If that happened, half your problem.
Sure, do that. But what is the reason? Why should one not open the doors of elite institutions to underprivileged children? Do both together. Mohandas Pai wants to come in.
By all means.
Mohandas Pai. Yes, Mohandas Pai. Tell me, I have a question for you, Mohandas Pai. You take a child from an underprivileged background and take the child to one of the super luxury schools in Bengaluru with air-conditioned buses and air-conditioned classrooms. Right? I'm asking you today, do you think that will have a negative impact on our society or on the child, or do you think it will propel and drive the child from an underprivileged background to achieve even more?
Arnab, it will have a very positive impact if an underprivileged child goes to a elitist school. It will have a very positive impact on everybody else. It will have a positive impact on the child, and it's good for India. But Arnab, we are skirting the issue. The real issue is what happens to the 2 lakh crores. Mind the figure, 2 lakh crores the government of India and all the states are spending on school education. What are we getting for it as citizens? That's the big issue. The government of India is passing the buck to 5% of schools to say throw open the doors, which they should. I support that. But what happens to 95%? The government is evading its responsibility, wasting the taxpayers' money. We spend 2 lakh crores a year. Add up all the budgets of all the states and central government. This is the issue, Arnab.
But why should I'm again asking you? It's terrible. I know what you're talking about. It's unbelievable that our reading levels are falling. Children's attendance has fallen. Absolutely. All the statistics on how we are doing at the level of secondary education are pathetic in our country. And that's what China and America are competing to improve the quality of school education. I agree with you. I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm still saying here today, is there a certain elitism, a post-reforms elitism that has crept into the minds of our parents today, who want to shelter their children, who do anything to shelter?
That's true.
That is the unfortunate part, but Arnab, there is a solution to it. And the solution is that we should not just give them right to education, we should also give them right to hostel, as well as right to better clothing and a kind of allowance to the family to teach, to give access to
charity begins at home, Professor Arindam Chaudhary. Reserve seats in your institution. One second.
I think we have completely forgotten the argument. The argument is this: let the government do its job. Yes. Let it get its teachers to teach. Yes, they don't teach.
But Professor Indiration, it has to be both simultaneously, no?
Now look, we pay taxes. Let them increase the taxes. I don't mind that. I'll pay the taxes. But don't say that somebody has to pay for the others.
That the education system functions. Not just that the government doesn't only look at the poor while the private sector looks at the rich. The government has to look at the entire system of education. That's its constitutional responsibility. Why is it that today parents of children studying in private schools are forming associations to oppose fee hikes? Because they want the government to do its job. Why do the poor want proper education?
Why they do it is because this kid,
because
they want the government to do its job. The government's responsibility is to every
Can I put the story out? Can I put the real story out? I want to put the real story out in the way I read this real story. The story is, I went through the facts. I went through the facts. Allow me, ma'am. I went through the facts here. I went through the Right to Education Bill, and I saw that there's specific subclauses here where the school will be reimbursed the entire money for teaching these students from underprivileged.
That's not the right reading. They pay only the calculation of the marginal cost of education in their schools. 1,190 rupees, you cannot teach any child if you pay 1,190 rupees in a year. It doesn't work.
My point is a slightly broader point. My point is that today a group of elite parents and managements of elite schools have come together to say that we don't want our business model to change. The schools say we don't want our business model to change. We got into it to make money. And we have every right to make money if we are giving good education. And parents are saying we have made money to shelter our children from other children in India. So this is about social barriers and profit margins.
I'm not sure it's quite...
This is about social barriers and profit margins.
The argument is different. There is a difference in a social responsibility and the personal responsibility of the person.
So I think
you want to give a charity, perfectly fine.
This is not charity.
No. It is charity.
Yeah.
The government should not force a person to give charity.
Exactly.
When Mr. Sibal send his grandchildren
exactly
to
my views.
Government CSR. You won't do it.
You know, CSR can be a good charity, but you can't force anybody to do CSR if he's in the private business model.
No, I think to call this charity...
Most of these schools and all of these schools are government aided, have got land from government at less cost, and they have the responsibility to pay back to the society.
I'm sorry to that. The real counter argument is that tomorrow many more of these children will get into IITs and law schools and IIMs if you provide them education at an early level.
Agreed.
Because what differentiates between a child, two children at the age of 6 and one child who goes to an elite school and one child who goes to a government school is the fact that when the child from the elite school passes out, he has certain social skills and soft skills. Which also and language skills and other skills which put him ahead. Why should the child of an underprivileged father not get that?
They don't get it because the government refuses to teach them English.
In any case,
it's a government rule that they will not teach them English. Absolutely. This is the government is doing it.
1 minute. In any case, what is merit? Merit is not something that you're born with. It is also, a lot of it is your circumstances, the family you're born with, what you're exposed to, what are the, all those various factors, social factors that create merit in somebody, as you are saying, rather...
That will also determine
Madhu Prasad. What do you mean type of merit? Explain type of merit.
For example, if I come from a rich family and I am able to have certain advantages in life, I will display a certain kind of merit. But that is not necessarily the only possible merit. There is not one fixed thing which is merit. Nor is there one fixed thing. I know that there are cases of people, for example, who have studied in the United States and had the best medical education that they could get internationally. But when they come to India, they are unable to work in a government hospital. Whereas some of the finest doctors,
Madam,
with the best
I come from a very poor family. My mother...
Madhu Prasad, please hear the contrary argument. Please hear the contrary argument, please. Madhu Prasad, please hear the contrary argument.
I come from a very poor family. My mother was a school teacher in the Corporation of Madras. That's where I studied. So please don't say that it is necessary. The school used to be good.
One second. Madhu Prasad, Miss Madhu Prasad, may I request you?
The elite concept will also gain by interacting with other ideas about what is merit, what is good, what is right, what can be done, what are possible options.